people just a minute to join. We're going to give, for those of you that are watching this after the live portion of this, we're going to give just a couple of minutes for people to hop on here so they can ask some questions. And we're going to talk to this young lady about an event she went through here just recently and ended up having to pull her firearm out, but ended up not shooting the intruder. And we're going to find out why. Hey, Ayed. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So I'm here today with Stephanie. Stephanie is a client of ours, and also she is you're a hairdresser.
Yes.
And this past week, Stephanie was at home. I'm gonna let Stephanie tell you the story, but got into a situation where she did end up having to pull her gun, and we're gonna let you guys ask her some questions as we move into the story. So Stephanie, if you want, tell us a little bit about what happened and who came into your home.
So I had just sent my kids off to school, and I decided to lay back into bed for about an hour before I had to get up and go to work. I didn't think to lock the door because my husband and I were home. I heard my dog bark. I didn't think anything of it.
You might have to speak up. I'm not sure if they can hear you or not. Go ahead.
So I just kind of ignored the dog, and then I heard a door creak open, and at that point I just thought maybe it was an animal, one of our animals, in our laundry room. And then I heard the door creak shut again, and at that point I knew someone was in our house. So I told my husband, hey, somebody's in our house. He jumped up, he confronted the guy, and the guy innocently said, I'm just looking for Braden Beck, and that's the previous tenant of our house. So at this point, I don't know what to think. I don't know if this is innocent. I don't know if this is a bad guy. And then I saw a knife in his back pocket. He was standing in our kitchen, so it could have easily been one of our own knives. I didn't know. But I did run back to my room and grab my firearm, at which point he was standing by my back door. My husband was right next to him. So I only had a clear line of sight for a few seconds before my husband obstructed. And I didn't know at the time that he had robbed a convenience store and 2 other homes before he got ours. Things might have been a lot different then. At that point, I just thought maybe it was innocent. Maybe he just went into our house thinking somebody else lived there.
Okay, so they're saying they can't hear. So if you want to get that a little closer, I'm going to recap basically what Stephanie said. This is for those of you that are joining in. This is Stephanie. Stephanie's one of our clients, but more importantly, this past week she had an encounter that was a big scare for her in her home. Somebody broke in, had a knife, was rummaging through her kitchen while she's laying there asleep, and ended up getting to the point at where she and her husband figured out somebody was in their home. They go into the kitchen and they find this guy rummaging through their stuff. They later found out that he not only had stolen her money and some of her belongings, but he had also, prior to that, just did an armed robbery with a knife at a local convenience store around the corner and a couple of other homes. And so Stephanie walks in on this guy, and her husband walks in on this guy, and Stephanie ends up choosing not to take the shot. And there's some valuable lessons here. Thanks, David. Yeah, we finally figured out how to make it the right way on the video. So Stephanie actually made the wise decision, and it's something that we're taught, but maybe when we're nervous we don't always think this. And she had her wits about her and was able to take into consideration that had she taken that shot, what is beyond her target and what is in the direct vicinity of her target had she missed. And her husband was there, and so she decided that the threat, certainly while it was relatively imminent, the guy didn't have the knife at anyone's throat, and she was not willing to risk missing and potentially hitting her husband, which thank you, Andy, by the way. Andy says good job. And so she made that choice not to take the shot. And
Thanks.
There's some great valuable lessons here, and I'll tell you
For 4
something.
days, that's been kicking me in the butt. Thanks.
So we're going to break this down and talk a little bit about what she did that was really well, and we're going to talk about maybe a couple things that maybe we've all done and that we should maybe reconsider. I know one of the things that you said you did, you let your children off to school, and you ended up leaving the door unlocked. And so that's probably something that you won't do going
No.
forward. I know we're pretty anal about that at our home. We don't even just going out to get the mail or whatever. I'll lock the door. But it's good to keep your doors locked and not have your home easily accessible. And it's not so much the door's going to stop somebody or a lock's going to stop somebody from getting in, but it helps you understand either audibly or visually. What's that say? Can we carry?
Getting our hair done.
Yes.
Hair done at your
Yeah.
salon.
Do you care if they're?
Several do.
Several people carry guns while they're getting there. In fact, we're going to be doing, if you follow our Facebook feeds as well, we're going to be featuring Stephanie here in a couple weeks on our Facebook feed with her hair salon as well. But the locked door helps us in two ways. Audibly, if someone's going to come in and they make a sound as they're coming in because they're breaking in the door, that's going to let us know and give us a little more time to react should someone have broken into our home. And then visually, even if you're not home, once you're getting home, it's a good indication that someone's either in your home or has been in your home, so you know that you need to be a little more cautious as you're walking through. I know a lot of people, because they feel like they live in a safe community, they don't lock their doors even as they are if they're leaving to go shopping or whatever. They'll leave the doors unlocked for the day because they live in a small community. But for those of you that have any questions for Stephanie, feel free to post. We'll try to answer some questions. I know she had do you think, so we get you carry while at home, so do you think you'll start carrying, of course on this particular instance, you were actually asleep.
Yes, I was asleep. We have several firearms in our house, so at any point, no matter where I'm at, there is a gun near me. So no, I probably won't carry my gun to go to the bathroom, but I do always have one available. The other day there was a video about Israeli carry or keeping one in the chamber. I always have one in the chamber. All I have to do is take the safety off.
Good. By the way, I'm in London. Hello from London. No direct question, just wanted to say I'm glad you came through it safe and sound. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
We are happy to hear that she did well. But the cool thing is, we never know how we're going to react when you're presented with that type of stress. And I will say Stephanie did a phenomenal job. She kept her wits about her. In fact, she ended up, I don't know if she got to this part of the story, she chased the guy out the door and down to her neighbor's house, because he then went to his neighbor's house, and she ended up notifying her neighbors that, hey, there's a guy in your yard that just got through robbing us. So that's a lot. That's a lot to process and to take on. If you've never been in a stressful situation where a lot's coming at you, you get tunnel vision, you get tunnel hearing, and you're hyper focused on. And it's almost like everything's moving in. It's moving super fast, but it's like it's in slow motion.
Exactly. Like, it was very slow motion, but it was very fast at the same time. This was a matter of less than 3 minutes. Tim had asked if it was dark in the house. No, it was 8 o'clock. It was full broad daylight. We have lots of windows in that area, so a lot of natural light, not dark.
Did she run barefoot like Santa Claus did in Texas? Did you run barefoot, or did you have time to put on shoes, or what happened?
If you must know, I had on flip-flops and bathrobe. I looked like a crazy woman running through my neighborhood.
Yeah. Here in South Africa, if we had to take a shot, we'd be charged with murder. Don't let taking the shot, everything happens and it just disappears. So, did you get that read?
I did. I have been telling myself that. A lot of people have been talking to me lately. Everything happens for a reason. The bad guy was caught. The cops came. I told them the location of the man since I followed him. I knew he was there. I knew he hadn't went anywhere. The cops got there. They used what do they call that, a ram? They busted the door down to this garage, and he's in jail.
So yeah, keep that in mind too. She not only chased this guy, but she's on the phone with 911, giving them the whereabouts where they can find him. So they were able to apprehend him. Talk about a true hero. She made the wise decision not to take a shot because her husband was in the vicinity. She was sharp enough. I apologize if I'm pausing. I'm also reading comments as they're coming through. What kind of gun did you have?
I carry a Kimber Solo with me all the time.
Okay, great gun. And your caliber is a
9mm.
9mm, also great.
His profile, like what did he look like? He was a white guy.
tall.
Under 6 foot tall. Blonde hair, blonde goatee.
I've got a question for you. Had you not caught him, I'm just curious to see,
Would
because
I
I know.
have known him? Yes.
Would you have recognized him again?
Absolutely.
Could you have given a description?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Did you buy from these guys? They want to know. I don't know if you bought it here or not.
At the time, I had my Kimber, I ordered it directly from Kimber Factory. It wasn't even in production yet. Mine was one of the first 500 made, so I didn't get it from Top Guns. I do get all my ammo here.
Somebody said, would you have considered firing your gun if you had non-lethal ammunition? I'm not sure what exactly is being referred to. You might have to elaborate on non-lethal ammunition, but I think Stephanie, at the end of the day, made a decision to, can you swipe up on my phone to get that reminder up there? At the end of the day, Stephanie made a great decision, a call in the midst of a stressful situation that her husband was in close proximity, and it wasn't worth the risk there to take that shot. Yeah, had the guy had his knife out, like physically headed towards her husband, I'm guessing
He'd be dead.
we would have a different story here. But the restraint that she showed is something that we can all learn from, because just because we have a firearm and just because someone has broken into our home doesn't necessarily mean that we need to take the shot or that we have the right to take the shot. We have to take those things into consideration, that there has to be an imminent threat there, and at that point she didn't feel like the threat was imminent. She had lost some stuff. Whose dog is that? That's my dog. Matthew says, well done, glad you're safe. But are there any other questions for Stephanie? At the time, most important part, you and your husband are safe.
Yes, we are, and the rest of my neighborhood is safe as well.
So if any of you are ever in town while you're maybe coming to visit Top Guns at some point and you need to get a haircut, here's your gal.
Less than a mile away.
Less than a mile away. She does. Too bad you're married, Keith says.
Sorry.
Does she have a sister who is single? Good job, Stephanie. But, well, anything you want to add?
I don't think so. I mean, there is some trauma going on. The adrenaline didn't hit for a few hours.
Great question. How long did it take for the adrenaline to go away?
A few hours. Jen is in Florida. Back to the adrenaline. Yeah, it took a couple of hours at first. Like, I maintained my composure until the police got him out of the garage. The detectives interviewed me. Everything was fine. My husband and I went to my salon so I could cut his hair, and my hands started shaking. And then by the end of the night, went back home, and it all replayed over and over and over in my head again. What happened? Why hadn't I shot? And that's when the adrenaline really hit me. I was shaky. I had a hard time focusing. But I mean, if the situation were different, maybe I am glad I didn't shoot him. At first, it took a few hours. All I could do is just keep repeating, I should have shot him, I should have shot him, I should have shot him. But I didn't. And he's alive. Hopefully he never gets out. Hopefully he doesn't come back. But I'm better now. The adrenaline's gone.
Question came up, are you more cautious at home? I think that the main, probably the main thing that you've changed at home is you now lock your doors.
Yeah, I do. The doors are locked. A lot more lights stay on when we're home. Usually I don't turn lights on a lot. I use my flashlight on my phone. The lights stay on a lot longer. My kids, I've instructed them, make sure we're keeping the doors locked all the time.
Yeah. So just to recap, and you should go back and watch this. Hello from Germany. Just to recap, for those of you that recently joined, somebody broke into her home while she and her husband were asleep. They had left the door open. They heard the person. He had just prior robbed a convenience store and also two other homes. They get up. They go in the kitchen. She ended up getting to her firearm, drew it on him, and told him to get out. She opted not to take the shot due to the fact that her husband was in close proximity and it wasn't worth the risk. He did have a knife on him, and once he did leave, once you had her firearm drawn on him and he decided to leave, she followed him, realizing that he had stole their stuff. She followed him, had her phone, got on 911 in your flip-flops and nightgown, got the police on 911 and guided them in all the way to her neighbor's house where she had chased him to, and so that they could apprehend him at that location. And now I'm sure he's getting charged with a slew of crimes, including the convenience store robbery. So I'm usually in bed at 8:30, and I have a 4-year-old.
To answer, a couple of questions came up. First one, yes, I do have a permit to carry. Where we are at in Indiana, you can have a firearm in your home. So even if I didn't, I would still have a firearm in my home. I have a lifetime permit. I can carry anywhere in Indiana except for schools, post offices, etc. Second question, no, my kids weren't asleep at 8 o'clock. I had already sent them off to school. In such a short time frame, my son might have seen this man as he was walking to school. He might have seen the guy on the street. That's how short the time window was.
So you know, another thing to take into consideration is if she wasn't nervous already, I'll bring this up to make her more nervous. God forbid that would have happened while your child was there. You know, would you have had quick enough access to a firearm?
Yeah.
And been able to handle that situation?
My husband and I chose the room that was closest to the door. When I was a single mom before my husband and I got married, I had chosen the room that was closest to the door, and then we moved to this house and chosen the room that was closest to the door because in the back of my mind, I've always known, like, I'm the first line of defense when it comes to protecting my children and my home. So I would always have known if they come in the door, I would be able to protect them and get to my firearm faster than they would be able to get to my kids.
All right, so 2 good questions came up. One is, do you keep your firearm loaded with kids in the house?
I do. I grew up with firearms around me. That's why I'm so comfortable, I think. My kids, they know. I talk to them about it. You know, this is not a toy. This is not a toy gun. This is, you know, deadly. It's lethal. It could kill someone. You never touch this. My daughter's older. She's a teenager. I've taken her out. We've talked about gun safety. She's fired. She's comfortable with the weapon herself. I keep the safety on and I keep it out of the reach. But it's always loaded, yes.
Yeah. So like many responsible parents, even though your firearm is loaded, it is not easily attainable by your children, and this thing is out of reach to where they're unable to get their hands on it.
Correct.
Got it. Somebody else asked, and unless anything else pops up, we'll make this the last question. Someone else asked, how often do you practice? How often do you go shooting?
I do trust my kids. How often do I go shooting? It just depends on the time of the year, the weather, if I have time. Usually we shoot 1 or 2 times a year. Lately it's been a lot more. I don't know if I just kind of felt like this instinct was coming. Our neighborhood's gotten a little bit more dangerous. So I've come in here, I think a couple of times to shoot, went out to families and shot, you know, out in the woods. So, I mean, it varies. It's not something that I make it a point to go practice all the time, but I am comfortable enough with my firearm that I know that I could shoot someone had I needed and felt a threat. It wasn't a kill or be killed situation.
Excellent. Well, we want to tell Stephanie, great job. Congratulations on making some great decisions. And I heard there's a really good indoor shooting range in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Is that sarcasm?
I don't know.
We're here.
I assume.
Yeah.
Where do we go for a haircut? You want to tell them where you're located?
Sure. Hair Place Salon and Day Spa. It's on 7th Street, right across from Regional Hospital in Terre Haute. Steve's pretty too.
Now, Stephanie, hey, but here's the last thing I'll mention. A lot of you guys like to talk to Jennifer when she's out here or see her on video. Jennifer and Stephanie are
Best friends.
best friends. So, kind of coincidental that.
Actually, I'm the reason Jennifer's here working.
That's true. She is the reason Jennifer works at Top Guns. So, does the dog have a better attention span than Steve?
I think so.
Anything, anywhere has a better attention span than Steve than I do.
Do you want to talk to people about Ladies Night?
Yeah, we do Ladies Night here. For those of you that are local, I think a lot of our followers are not local, but we do have Ladies Night on.
Jennifer's not single.
No, Jennifer's not single either. So we do have ladies' night every Tuesday night. Is that right? Is it Tuesday night? I think it's Tuesday night.
Tuesday
I
from
should know.
5:30 to 7:30.
And then of course we have other events going on other nights of the week, and we bring in some very large name instructors. And in fact, if you stay tuned, a little bit later we're going to be doing a live feed on a trainer that we have coming in from. He's an Israeli counterterrorism specialist. So if you stay tuned, we're going to have that live feed coming up a little bit later. Appreciate it. Thanks guys for watching. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.